Hello, what's up YouTube? Welcome to my channel, MMA Normie, and we have a big one. We have a big event coming up, UFC 268, and also we are going to be taking a look back at the UFC 267 event. This is going to be a long stream. We have so much to talk about, but before we do that, let me share this live link so that everybody can join in. My God, I'm clumsy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really clumsy. Trying to figure this thing out, this whole online thing. Not very good at it. Still learning and trying to figure out. Got it. I hope it doesn't make any big sound. And here we go. There you go, Twitter. So, everybody, I am live. My God. Kindly join in. Hey, if you're not following me on Twitter, find that MMA Normie and give me a follow, please. I'm tweeting this out for everyone to join in. Boom. And is there anything else left to do? I'm confused here. Let me share it everywhere around. Just a second, guys. And by the way, if you're here in the meantime, kindly press the like button. Share this video with your friends as well so that they can join in. And we're going to get in on the fun, right? It's going to be a long stream, like I said. We're going to discuss UFC 267. We're going to discuss UFC 268. 2 mega events to end the year. And it's going to be awesome. Still sharing, guys. I'm really clumsy. Either way, if you have joined in, kindly give it a like and share. Would be very, very nice. And here we go. I'm slow. There it is. And UFC 267, UFC 268. We are going to discuss those both. Boom. Yeah, we are done with the sharing part. So let's get into it, right? That's what we are here for. We are here for some MMA news. We are here for some MMA analysis, and we've got two big events. One of them just happened last week, UFC 267. Awesome event. We're going to talk about that. And the next one coming up this Sunday. Saturday for US viewers. This Sunday for me, UFC 268. Probably one of the best cards that UFC has produced this year. Assuming no one falls out in the meantime. Weigh-ins are already done, so I'm hoping nobody will fall out. And if the fights happen exactly in the order that the card is showing, the fight card is showing, it's going to be an awesome event if it happens like that. So, without any further ado, let's start with UFC 267. Let me open up my notes here. UFC 267. Boom. Here we go. So, the main event of UFC 267, it was a completely heartwarming event. I loved it. Glover Teixeira beats Jan Blachowicz for the UFC light heavyweight title. Going into the fight, I wasn't expecting Glover to do as well as he did. I mean, I knew going into the fight that the fight is going to be decided on the ground. Glover, as he has aged, he has leaned more into his wrestling and grappling rather than his striking, which I think is one of the primary reasons why his career has extended so well this late in his career, this late in his life, I mean. And Jan Blachowicz, as we know, he brings the Polish power. He is a very powerful striker. He is a knockout striker. Glover Teixeira actually went out there and kind of bullied Blachowicz in the first round. He pushed Blachowicz back, and the interesting part is Blachowicz actually plays, I mean, fights very well on the back foot. In certain moments, he has achieved knockouts from back foot. So I was kind of really surprised by Glover's decisions, and it was important for Glover to push him back, to be honest, because he he needed to get the takedowns. He needed to get Blachowicz moving back so that he can shoot. And the way Glover went about it was very interesting because he pressed on to Jan Blachowicz from the beginning. And if you noticed Glover's striking, you can see that he does not really have the same chin as he used to have once upon a time. He can be smart, so that was a very risky bet, in my opinion. His head movement is good, but it's something timeable. You can time that head movement. It's not very fluid. It's a little bit mechanical, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. He had head movement, but Jan was not really able to take any advantage of that. He wasn't really able to time Glover's head movement or anything, which is really, really interesting, I should say. And other than that, there was a nice exchange when Glover was pressing Jan against the cage, where both men threw left hooks at each other, but because Glover was pressing Jan against the cage, he wasn't in a proper stance to throw a really good left hook where he could really generate power. Glover, on the other hand, he was really firm. He was on his fighting stance, and he landed a nice left hook, which I think stunned Jan Blachowicz, to be honest. And actually, that was the first moment when I looked at the fight and I was like, whoa, Glover Teixeira has come to win this fight. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to win at 40 plus age. I mean, come on, he's old. But soon after that, he got the takedown, and he wasn't making really a concerted effort to pass the guard or anything. He was kind of a little bit happy to be on Jan's guard and land shots here and there. He was all offensive in the first round, at least. Jan wasn't trying to get up either. He had his guard fully closed. But Glover had the top control. Glover managed to win the round. And he was going for old school can openers. And you can see at certain points, Glover managed to really make Blachowicz uncomfortable by pulling his neck. And when the second round came in, Glover managed to get his passes, and he managed to choke Jan Blachowicz out. I mean, it was a really impressive performance from Glover Teixeira, especially considering he's 40 plus, and he just set the record for being the oldest fighter to win a UFC championship for the first time. So congratulations to Glover. My heart feels warm to see him as the champion. And I think Alexander Gustafsson might be looking at this fight and be like, how is this happening to me, right? I mean, Alexander Gustafsson is the ultimate definition of a guy who was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. If you look at his career, he had 3 title fights, 2 of which You could argue he probably won. I mean, with three different set of judges, I should say. Maybe they would give this fight to Alexander Gustafsson, or whether it was the first Jones fight or it was the DC fight. You could make a case that he probably won those fights as well. He definitely lost the rematch to John. But interesting thing is Alexander Gustafsson completely defeated Jan Blachowicz with a wrestling heavy game. He knocked out Glover Teixeira, and both these men have now claimed the light heavyweight championship to their names. However, Alexander Gustafsson was never a world champion, even though he was such an excellent fighter. He has wins against great world champions, but he isn't a world champion. And going back to the point of Glover Teixeira, that man has worked extremely hard to come back and win this title like the way he did. Because if you guys remember, quite a few years ago, he actually had a title shot against John. And at that time, Glover used to be a very striking heavy fighter. He used to press people up against the cage, land really tight hooks, knock them out, something like that. And John Jones, when he faced Glover Teixeira, he just flipped the script on Glover. He pushed on to Glover. He pushed Glover back to the cage and unloaded on him, like literally fighting Glover the way Glover fights everybody else and beat him at his own game. I mean, that was why John Jones was, so special. He was very special, and it was pretty obvious. Glover Teixeira didn't have any answers for John Jones at that time, but he didn't get disheartened. All these years, he kept fighting and fighting, trying to get the shot again one more time if possible. And he has had some really bad setbacks. I mean, just a couple of years ago, if you remember the Anthony Johnson fight, the memes were going around of Glover Teixeira getting knocked out by Anthony Johnson and his teeth flying out into the space, flying out into the moon. I mean, he got wrecked in that fight. He got destroyed by Alexander Gustafsson, but he did not give up. He reinvented himself at such an old age. He went from a striking heavy game to a wrestling and grappling heavy game, found success there. He beat the young guys. He snatched a title shot off of them by beating them. And he finally made his dream come true. I mean, truly, truly congratulations to Glover Teixeira. I am so happy to see him as the light heavyweight champion of the world, but he's probably going to fight Prohaska next. There is a chance Glover might be able to beat him. I mean, Prohaska isn't exactly known for his great takedown defense or anything, but his striking offense is just insane. If Glover somehow ends up, surviving that, I don't know. He might be able to win this. However, I favor Prohaska to win the fight against Glover actually. But either way, Glover Teixeira made a great showing and had a great win. Congratulations to him. From that fight, we move on to Petr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen. So judges scored this fight 49-46 unanimously across the board. I had that fight 48-47, but either way, Petr Yan was your deserving rightful winner. It was a interim bantamweight title fight. It felt more like a real champions fight though. Petr Yan, I wish I knew how to do a little bit more editing. I'm learning it. But, that fight was so interesting. Corey Sandhagen came out like a house on fire. If I could just show you the setups, just incremental setups that Petr Yan used to shut Corey Sandhagen down, it was such an amazing performance. Like I said, Corey Sandhagen came out first round like a house on fire, and he was landing jabs, he was switching stance, he was landing left hand, right hand. I mean, come on, that guy was on fire. He was landing his knees here and there, his kicks. Corey Sandhagen looked like $1 million in the first round, and you can see Piotr Jan. He doesn't really start too fast. He tries to, get a reading on you, and once he reads you, though, after that he becomes really dangerous. And Piotr Jan looks like he becomes incrementally dangerous as the rounds go by. First round, Corey Sandhagen clearly won that round. His footwork was great. His combinations were great, and I think outside of Max Holloway, Piotr Jan might be just the best switch hitter in UFC. I'd still give the first position to Holloway, obviously, but Piotr Jan, oh, sorry, not Piotr Jan. I think Corey Sandhagen is probably right there. He was really good. He was landing nice combinations, and Piotr Jan started to shut things down by the midpoint of round two. Round three, he completely took over, dropped Corey Sandhagen, and really, really had an impact on that fight. Round four, I thought he really ran away with that round. And round five, I thought it was really competitive because Corey Sandhagen came back with some of his own adjustments to what Piotr Jan was doing, and he really had a much, much better showing in the fifth round, and that was really heartening to see two top level fighters adjusting against each other's offense like that. But still, Piotr Jan was a little bit ahead in my mind, so I gave that fight a 48-47 to Piotr Jan. I thought Corey Sandhagen looked awesome. I don't really have much, you know, complaints to make of Corey Sandhagen, to be honest. He actually fought a really great fight. He just fought a fighter that was simply better. And I think Corey can get better as well. Um, it's back to the drawing board for him. Piotr Jan, I think he's probably definitely going to fight Aljamain Sterling next. And I think he's definitely going to win this time, like he should have won the last time. I don't think Sterling can beat him. Piotr Jan is something special. So from that fight, Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. The fight started pretty interesting if you guys actually go back and watch the fight. At one point, Islam tried to, throw a switch hitting combination, and in the middle of his switch, Dan Hooker landed a left hand on him, which stopped him on his track. And you can just see in Islam Makhachev's eyes, like, Islam doesn't want to do this anymore. He doesn't want to strike anymore. And immediately he went to his grappling after that. He didn't even bother to try set up strikes or anything like that. After that moment, I thought Dan Hooker was probably the sharper striker between the two. And he realized it immediately, I think. So he was like, not going to strike anymore, going to go for a takedown. And you know these Dagestani guys. Once they go for takedowns, it's just downhill from there. And Islam Makhachev, to be honest, actually made very quick work of Dan Hooker, submitted him pretty fast. And with that, I think Islam Makhachev did manage to make a statement this time. His previous fights, if you notice, it was slow. He wouldn't be very offensive from top. He would take a very slow, methodical way to win the fights. And it's nice to see. You can see he's clearly technically superior, but he wasn't taking any risks whatsoever to finish the fights. This time he did. This time he was more offensive, more strikes, faster submission attempts. I think this just made him a contender for the belt. And to be honest, he's probably going to win the belt whenever he fights for it. He is super talented. His striking is very competent. His grappling and wrestling is clearly another level. It's on another world. Outside of Khabib, I think he is the best wrestler. I know if anybody watches this video, which I hope you guys do. If you do, don't forget to click the subscribe button, like this video, and click the bell icon for future notifications. And if anybody does end up watching this video, I think they might end up commenting, dude, what about Hamza? What about Hamza? We'll talk about Hamza, but look at the list of guys that Islam has beaten now. It's it's a long list of guys that he has made really short work of. He hasn't made short work of everybody, to be honest, but he has made everybody look incompetent compared to him, especially in grappling and wrestling. And Islam is really, really impressive from that point of view. He is probably the best wrestler in UFC right now. With that, let's go to the fighter that excited everybody in this card, which is Hamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang. You guys probably noticed I did not even talk about Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura, or is it Marcin Tybura? I don't know. It was a heavyweight fight that went 3 rounds. Seriously, do I need to say anything more? That's all I'm going to say about it. A heavyweight fight that went the distance, full 3 rounds. We're not going to talk about it. Hamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang. A star is really, really born this time. I mean, Hamzat Chimaev, people were already high on him. He was like the hybrid of Habib and Conor, basically. He talks, he's brash, just like Conor, and he has the skill sets of those Dagestani guys who just grab a hold of you and drown you. He's literally a cross between Habib and Conor. And it showed in this fight. He came out, he faked a jab, and Jingliang, like a madman, tried to counter him with a 1-2 immediately. And that's all the opening Hamza needed to get his takedown. He immediately changed level off of Jingliang's 1-2. Jingliang put his whole body into it. He came forward. He had no ground balance. He could not stop Hamza from completing his shot. Even though he did stop Hamza from completing his initial shot, but it's the reshots with these Dagestani guys. They don't even care if they take you down from the first shot. They just want to make contact. If they made contact, you're dead. And you just saw how Hamza did not break contact once he made it, and adjusted until he got him, picked him up like a baby, and then started talking to Dana White in the middle of the fight. Then dropped Jingliang and unloaded on him and choked him out basically after that. It was a quick fight, not much to talk about except Hamzat has really, really dangerous wrestling. He has competent grappling, probably dangerous grappling. I don't know. He choked the guy out pretty easily this time. And we know from his previous fights that he also does possess some serious power in his hands as well. So, as a future contender, Hamzat Chimaev looking pretty interesting. I mean, assuming if Usman beats Colby next week, Covington, and UFC Brass is not too keen on giving Leon Edwards any title shots anytime soon, so Hamzat might just jump him, to be honest. It might not happen, but there is a possibility. And I think if Usman faces Hamzat, although I do think Hamzat needs a little bit more experience for that, I think Usman is very competent, very experienced. So I don't know if Hamzat can get a little bit of experience in the meantime and fight this current version of Usman, who is really uber impressive in my eyes. It's going to be a real interesting fight, in my opinion. more interesting than the Leon Edwards fight, I think. I don't think Leon can beat Usman anymore. I never thought Leon could beat Usman, and he does already have a loss to Usman. Either way, Hamzat Chimaev, a star is born. That's for sure. From that, going to the opening bout of the main card, Magomed Ankalaev, Volkan Ozdemir. I don't really have much to say about this fight either. Ankalaev, interesting guy. Good offense, good defense, good wrestling, very well rounded, and he looked faster. He landed more kicks. His combinations were faster than Volkan, and he pretty much beat him everywhere. I don't really have much to speak about this fight, to be honest. Hamza did well. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Ankalaev did well. He won the fight, but it's a light heavyweight fight. Don't hate me. So now let's move on to the card that I really want to talk about, which is UFC 268 this Sunday morning 7:30. This card is going to be just fireworks all around. I mean, look at the names: Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Rose Namajunas, Zhang Weili, Frankie Edgar, and Marlon Vera, Shane Burgos, Billy Quarantillo, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. I mean, come on. Alex Pereira, the guy who knocked out, why can't I say his name? I'm blanking on the middleweight champion's name. What is going on with me? Who is the UFC middleweight champion? Stylebender. Oh my god. I forgot Israel Adesanya's name. Never mind. Alex Pereira was the last guy to knock out Israel Adesanya. He is making his UFC debut in this card as well. This is going to be one of the best cards of the week, of the year, to be honest. And this fight card is just loaded. I mean, Edmund Salvagian all the way down in the prelims card against Imavov. That one is going to be an interesting fight as well. Phil Hawes is fighting Chris Curtis. Whatever. All Quinta back after a long time against Bobby Green. Bobby Green has been recently more active, so I don't know how All Quinta is going to look like. But this is going to be an interesting striking fight, that's for sure. And then, Alex Pereira is making his middleweight debut in the preliminary card main event against Andreas Michailidis, whoever he is. I have not seen him fight before, to be honest. But it's going to be interesting if Alex Pereira starts knocking out people with that left hook in UFC as well. You know UFC wants to make that fight between Stylebender and Alex Pereira because it already has that story built in. Alex was the last guy to knock out Adesanya in a kickboxing ring, not in a UFC ring, not in a MMA ring, or MMA cage, I should say. But it's interesting. He did beat Adesanya in kickboxing. Can he beat Adesanya in MMA, or will Adesanya have his revenge? This is going to be interesting. I don't think Alex Pereira will need to fight too many fights to get to Israel Adesanya. I think if he starts knocking out guys fast, UFC will totally fast track him to a title shot, and it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. Let's talk about the fight that I am most excited about. Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. Two guys who hit like trucks, who have really great wrestling pedigree, and you just can't script it. This fight is going to be awesome. It has to be, right? Both of them are come forward, throw caution to the wind kind of fighters. Justin Gaethje in recent years has become much more measured, has become much better as a striker than he used to be when he first came into the UFC. I think, especially after the Eddie Alvarez loss and the Dustin Poirier loss, I think we saw an evolution in Justin Gaethje's game. And as a striker, he has become much more measured now. So this is going to be interesting. On the other hand, Michael Chandler really doesn't have big setups. He has a big 1-2. He doesn't really throw feints much, but he has that explosive power. He is super athletic. He is super athletic. He has that explosive power, and he can also shoot for really fast power doubles as well. Justin Gaethje, on the other hand, really has great wrestling. And don't let the Habib fight fool you. Habib makes everybody look bad. I mean, what can you do? But he does have a great wrestling pedigree, Justin Gaethje. He doesn't really use it, but I think defensively he will be competent against Michael Chandler. And if that happens, then this fight is going to be fought all on the feet. And that's the interesting part, because Justin Gaethje now has feints. He has long range weapons, especially his leg kicks. And Michael Chandler doesn't deal with leg kicks very well. He eats them a lot. He does not check them much, and Justin Gaethje throws them really hard. But Michael Chandler explodes real fast with that 1-2. I mean, you guys saw what he did to Dan Hooker. He dropped him immediately. Even in his title fight against Oliveira, in the first round, he hurt Oliveira real bad. I mean, credit to Oliveira for surviving that, coming back and, knock Chandler out in the next round. But he was in real trouble. Chandler just has that power. And if you look at the career of both these two guys, Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, both of them have been in serious wars. Both of them have been in big wars. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Bellator, but you should go definitely watch the trilogy of Michael Chandler and Eddie Alvarez. Both those men poured it all out in those three fights, that trilogy. Michael Chandler has been in some fights where he has been knocked out recently, including against 145er in Bellator and then against Oliveira in UFC. It looks like the after effects of those wars, it's showing more on Michael Chandler than it is showing on Justin Gaethje. But you cannot be in that many wars like these two men have been and not show signs of damage. They might say they don't believe in it, but come on, it's a human body. Question is, in this fight where the horsepower will be cranked up to 11 now, who's gonna show that damage first? Who's going to fold first? It looks like Justin Gaethje wears damage a little bit better than Michael Chandler. But either way, Chandler hits too hard as well. Michael Chandler really throws all his body weight into that right hand. He throws right straight. And if that connects, I don't know if we can survive this. On the other hand, like I said, it's beneficial for, what was his name? I blanked on his name again. Oh my god, Justin Gaethje. It's beneficial for Justin Gaethje to fight from the outside, at least in the initial rounds, I guess, because he has better leg kicks, he has better range weapons, and if the fight gets close, Justin Gaethje hits like a truck as well. So I don't know who's going to win this fight. I feel like Justin Gaethje, just by virtue of wearing damage better than Michael Chandler, might be able to win this, but don't quote me on that. Anything can happen in this fight, and that's exactly what I'm expecting to happen. This fight is going to be insane, and I'm totally here for it. From that, we move on to Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. The first time I saw Billy Quarantillo fight was in his last fight, and I immediately tweeted, "Never seen a Billy Quarantillo fight before, never gonna miss one again." Literally, that's what I said on Twitter. And Billy Quarantillo, he is a fun fighter, man. He's really a fun fighter. And Shane Burgos, I think everybody just remembers his last knockout loss against Edson Barboza, which was horrific. But if you go back a little further from that, I don't know how many fights ago this one was, but maybe last year before that, I can't exactly remember. He fought, what was the knockout artist's name? Why am I blanking on names so much that I don't understand? Just a couple fights ago, Shane Burgos, he fought Josh Emmett. Thank God. He fought Josh Emmett, and if you guys remember that fight, Josh Emmett is a pure knockout striker. Shane Burgos went toe to toe with Josh Emmett, and it was a real fun fight. Don't get fooled by the fact that he got knocked out by Edson Barboza. Shane Burgos can take some shots. Seriously, he can take some shots and come back and keep fighting, come back and keep fighting. And Billy Q, like I said, he is an exciting, fun fighter. But if he wants to win this fight, I think Billy Q has to lean on his wrestling a little bit more. Shane Burgos doesn't really attempt too much of it, at least not from what I've seen. And Billy Quarantillo seems like a very competent grappler in my eyes. I think he has to lean on that a little bit more, because if you're going pure striking, Shane Burgos is not stopping, man, unless you knock him out, which Edson Barboza did in his last fight, but don't count on it. It's not going to happen every time, right? Shane Burgos is tough. This fight is going to be tough, to be honest, for both the competitors, because Billy Quarantillo, I remember watching his last fight, like, he isn't the giving up type either. He can fight, man. He was really interesting. He was really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. In 145, this fight is going to be super important and could set up a future contender, to be honest. I hope it does set up a future contender. And, Billy Q made me a fan for life. So best of luck to him, I guess. And best of luck to Shane Burgos as well, because he is a super exciting fighter as well. So from that, we move on to, I don't know what, I think Frankie Edgar's fight. Yeah, Frankie Edgar versus Marlon Vera in bantamweight. Frankie Edgar has not had the best luck in 135 as of late, and he got knocked out by Corey Sandhagen with a flying knee. He's also getting up there in age, and he has taken so much damage in his career. So I'm a little bit scared for Frankie Edgar, to be honest. He is an excellent fighter, by the way. He has a nice jab. He has great movement. He sets up his shots from his strikes. He is a totally well coached, a totally competent fighter. But the thing is, he's getting up there in age, and in these smaller weight classes, man, the age starts to show faster, because people really rely on agility a lot in lower weight classes, and Frankie has lost a step, to be honest. He's not as fast as he used to be, and I think that's going to be a problem for him, because Marlon Vera, if you notice, he does not get the recognition that he should get. He does not get the respect that he actually deserves. I think he's very underrated. I think he's undervalued as well, because I thought his ranking should have been higher, but he's ranked lower than he should as well. And you can see this guy, he has been putting in the work, and he's got nice leg kicks. He's a hard-nosed striker. he can take punishment if he needs to in order to win as well. I mean, he's good everywhere. He's got some takedowns as well. Although I would give the wrestling edge to Frankie Edgar on this one, to be honest. However, like I said, Frankie has taken a lot of damage over his long storied career, which includes a title reign at 155. He has achieved it all, in my opinion, and I think these young guns, I think these young guns are gonna chew him and spit him out now. He's getting old. Although skill set wise, Frankie Edgar, very solid, probably one of the best in the world. But because he's not as fast as he used to be anymore, I think that's going to be a problem for him. I I, I suspect Marlon Vera is probably going to win a decision here, and it's sad, but it is what it is, right? And from that, we move on to the co-main event: Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang. I don't even think that's the fight that should be made, but UFC, as you can see, is trying to enter into a new market, the Chinese market, and they desperately want a Chinese champion, and this is literally an attempt at getting a Chinese champion to market to the Chinese market. I think because none of the other Chinese fighters are fighting at that high level. Zhang Weili is, but she has been defeated by Rose in her last fight, and she was not a long reigning champion or anything. I do not agree with an immediate title shot for Zhang Weili at all, but that's what she got. I thought actually Cookie Monster was supposed to get this title shot. She has been quietly putting up a nice win streak. She has been fighting hard fights. She has been fighting all the contenders, winning and coming up to win, her title back. And she already defeated Rose during the Ultimate Fighter finale to win the inaugural women's 115 pounds championship actually. So there is a built-in story as well. I don't know why UFC didn't lean into it at all. They kind of set Cookie Monster aside and put this fight together, Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas. So what can we learn from this? Actually, none of the dynamics between Rose Namajunas and Weili Zhang has changed from the first fight to this one, primarily because neither of them have fought any other fights. And also, whatever you thought could be the reason for win for either of those fighters in the last during the last fight, I think it's totally valid for this fight as well. Weili Zhang uh, has really devastating knees in the clinch range and elbows from clinch. Rose, on the other hand, has great footwork, great movement, and she fights long, man. She does not get to the clinch range very easily. Weili Zhang does have leg kicks. If she can implement a leg kick heavy game, I could see her taking over the fight that way. I mean, not in the first round maybe, but from third round onwards or so, I think she has to make an investment with leg kicks if she wants to defeat Rose, because Rose does not really defend leg kicks very well. Her stance is very wide. She has that in and out movement. So if you can time it, if you're really young and land leg kicks, there is hope. And off of that, if you can just close the distance and get to the clinch range, I think Weili Zhang has better clinch striking than Rose. If you go all the way back in Rose's career, you can see that Karolina Kowalkiewicz pretty much defeated Rose with clinch strikes. She was better in the clinch than Rose, and that's how she beat Rose. Once upon a time, it was a long time ago. Carolina beat Rose. I don't think Rose has significantly improved in the clinch range, but she has significantly improved in the sense that she avoids the clinch range better than she used to. Part of it is probably because of the training she has with Trevor Whitman. She has become a really, really better striker. She has long glancing left hook, and she lands with enormous power. I mean, for someone at 115, she lands with real power. She can knock you out. And we've seen from the last fight that Rose had with Weili Zhang that she can be knocked out. So there is that hope, I guess. Although Weili Zhang, key to victory for her is to not fall for the setups, not fall for the feints. Stay on the outside in the first round if at all possible. You lose the first round, you lose it, whatever, and invest in leg kicks. And off of that, try to close the distance and get into a clinch range. That could be one key way for Weili Zhang to win, although it's easier said than done, obviously. Personally, I think Rose is going to win again, and if past is prolonged, every time Rose rematches somebody, she's better during the rematch than she was in the first fight. She fought Joanna twice. The second fight went longer, but Rose was the clear winner. She fought, who was the previous champion? My God, I'm blanking on names today a lot. I can't believe this. Who was the girl that dropped Rose Namajunas on her head to win the championship? You guys know her. The Brazilian girl, right? My God. Why can't I remember her name? And you saw in the rematch with her as well, Rose was better. The rematch each time went longer, and Rose still won the rematches. So I'm kind of hoping that this fight will go in a similar manner as well. Jessica Andrade, that was the former champ, Jessica Andrade, who dropped Rose on her head to win the title belt, and when they rematched, Rose beat her. And it looks like every time Rose rematches somebody, the rematch goes longer than the first fight, and she usually wins the rematches. The same thing is going to happen with Weili Zhang. And this fight has to go longer than the first fight, right? That kick just came out of nowhere, caught Weili Zhang, and the fight ended real quick. I think this fight is going to be a little bit more strategic than last fight. Weili Zhang is probably going to be more cautious, but either way, I think Rose is still going to win. I think she is the better striker, although Weili Zhang is a really excellent striker in her own rights. But should this fight go to ground, I think Rose has an advantage. I think she has much better grappling. I have not seen Weili Zhang's grappling that much. It could be excellent. I don't
It's
know.
5 o'clock.
But I'm going to trust Rose to, have better grappling than Weili Zhang should the fight, go to the ground at any point. And if Rose can manage to fight from the outside for the whole 5 rounds, should it even go 5 rounds, and then I think Rose has a real case for winning this fight. So from that, I think we are going to the main event. Yes, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. Not much has changed from the last fight between the two. Although, if you guys hear that sentence, you might be telling me, bro, just look at the last few fights of Kamaru Usman. I mean, he has leveled up. Yes and no, I guess. See, the thing is, dynamics between the first Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman fight and this second fight has not changed very much, although both men have changed training camps since then. Um, Colby Covington is no longer at ATT, and Kamaru Usman has primarily started training with Trevor Whitman instead of his longtime coach Henry Hooft. Striking wise, you can say Kamaru Usman has made some strides. He jabs better, but here's the thing: go back and watch his fights, even the recent ones that he won. Kamaru Usman has not made significant strides in terms of defense. Kamaru Usman has made significant strides in terms of offense. That's an interesting thing. I'll tell you why. Because during the last fight with Colby Covington, Kamaru actually started landing to the body, I think from the second round onwards, and from that point, uh, Covington became more of a stationary target than he was before. Go back and watch the first round. Go back and watch the second round. I don't think Kamaru landed that many strikes to the head, and every time he misses to the head, Covington managed to come back at him with long combinations. Kamaru does not go for long combinations. I mean, go back and watch the Gilbert Burns fight. Go back and watch um, Masvidal fight, or even the first Covington fight. Kamaru Usman does not have like a 4 or 5 punch combo. He does not go for it. He goes for this nice crisp 1-2, which is really great because he has that power in his hands to drop people, but he does not extend his combinations. It's usually 1 punch, 2 punch, maybe 3 punches at a time. Colby, on the other hand, if he can counter you, he will counter you with long combinations, 5, 6 punches if he has to. And he caught Kamaru multiple times in the first fight with long combinations off of counters. Now, the adjustment Kamaru Usman made to that was going to the body. And once he started going to the body, the head opened up and he started winning from there on. But the point is, Kamaru does not move his head very much. He is still a stationary target. Offensively, he's better now, even better than he used to be. But if you can exploit that, you know, to lean into his defensive flaws, Colby has a case here. He does land long combinations. He does throw punches in bunches. So he needs to figure out how to avoid the body punches and body kicks, not really get into a range where he eats body shots over and over, and figure out ways to, you know, block them if possible and come back with counters immediately, and get out of the range altogether, and then set up your feints to close the distance and then land on Kamaru. If he can do that, and he is with a new camp, like I said, maybe they do have a plan for that. I don't know. He can do that. It's going to be an interesting fight, striking wise, and even more even more interesting point is that both Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, neither of them leaned on their wrestling in the last fight. So if you're Covington, I say you need to lean on it more this time, because Kamaru has the power. If all things being equal, Kamaru has great cardio, Covington has great cardio, Kamaru has good striking, Covington has good striking. It's the wrestling. Both of them have excellent wrestling, but Kamaru, last time out, he wasn't much bothered with using his wrestling, and neither was Colby, but I think Colby needs to insist on it this time a little bit more than he did last time, because he did not insist on it at all last time. He needs to insist on it, make it a wrestling game, tire Kamaru out if possible. And I don't know if he succeeds. I don't know what could be the plan B if he doesn't succeed. So all in all, it's going to be really interesting this time. I mean, it's easier to see how Kamaru can win this fight. Usman probably should win this fight, but there are ways to victory for Covington here if he plays it smart. I think he needs to figure out counters for body shots, body punches, body kicks, and he needs to figure out how to implement a wrestling game in this fight, because last time he did not at all. What is Kamaru's more susceptible to? Is he susceptible to a double leg takedown, or can you go for clinch trips, or is it a single leg that should be more useful? We don't know, and Covington needs to find out. He needs to insist on it. I think that could be a big way for victory for him. Big way to victory for him. And for Kamaru, he should win this fight, to be honest. Both men, like I said, have the same tools. They have great, really competent striking, great wrestling. One of the things about Kamaru is that his wrestling is so potent. That's why other fighters are really hesitant to open up against him, because once you start to open up, he might just go and take you down. That is one thing I don't think Colby Covington has to worry about as much as others, because he himself happens to be a really good wrestler. So if he can lean on that a little bit more, make Kamaru fight his fight a little bit more, I don't know, this could get interesting. Otherwise, cardio-wise, both men are excellent. Striking-wise, defensively, especially to head strikes, I think Colby has a better response. Covington does move his head here and there. He has a good sleep. Kamaru is a little bit more stationary. He does not have great head movement. If Covington can exploit that, it could get interesting. And otherwise, Kamaru should win by default actually here. He has the power edge in this fight, and other attributes are quite equal. Both of them, like I said, great wrestling, good striking, a little bit of a questionable defense on both ends, and they both have great cardio. So power edge goes to Kamaru. If he leans on his power, might just win this fight. But it would be interesting to see if Colby comes up with some adjustments to that. Especially if he can come up with good adjustments to body shots and just counter Kamaru off of his strikes, because he does not move his head very well. And from there on, close the gap, go for single leg, double leg, clinch strips, whatever. See what sticks. This could get interesting. I would lean on Kamaru to win this fight, but I wouldn't count Covington out completely either. So we went for about 1 hour now. I'm going to end this live stream now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Whoever comes back and watches this later on, kindly like this video, share this, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell icon to get the notifications in time. If you enjoyed this, share it, my man. Share it around. Thank you.